My cochlear implant was activated 2 weeks ago. Next week, I go in for my first mapping, where my audiologist and I will work together on dialing this thing in. But it's a moving target. My brain is constantly adapting to this new way of hearing, so several of these tune-ups will be needed over the next several months or so. But where am I at now with my new implant before any tweaks to the software that's in here, and the software in here for that matter? In other words, what does this darn thing sound like so far? Hi, I'm Vince, and if you know me or have seen my other videos, you know that I'm a former audio guy. I made a living with my ears, and so I've always given a lot of thought to sound and how it works. Well, it turns out that, for better or worse, once a sound nerd, always a sound nerd. This thing fascinates the heck out of me, and I think I'm lucky in that I'm too curious about the implant to be really annoyed with any of its shortcomings so far. So here's where I stand now. I still hear everything almost an octave high in pitch, and there's a slightly monotone ring to it. Imagine that someone took a big hit of helium and then talked to you through a long cardboard tube that you have held up to your ear. That's the best description I can come up with. Some people use the term robotic, I think probably because subtle pitch differences are hard to come by with a cochlear implant, at least at first. TV and movies used to portray robots as having little pitch differentiation, we come in peace, take me to your leader. So that's how pitch limitations tend to be described. Aside from being pitched too high, I'm pretty pleased with my ability to understand speech with it. I've been doing fairly well with Advanced Bionics Word Success app, and I'm even a few hours into an audiobook streaming via Bluetooth only to the implant. I'd guess I'm hearing about 90% of it and using context cues to fill in the rest. It sounds not good, but hey, I can hear it, and I'm enjoying the book. I'm pretty amazed when I think about it. I mean, this is an electronic thingy implanted deep in my ear making electrical pulses, and I can mostly understand what it's saying after 2 weeks. But I'm curious about the high pitch thing. I pretty much expected it based on many reports from other implant recipients. I'm told that my brain will remap and rewire and adapt, but I've always been a little bit skeptical of that, to tell the truth. A part of me thinks that it would be kind of like giving someone a really crappy old Radio Shack bookshelf stereo with blown speakers and telling them that, hey, if you practice really hard and listen to it long enough, it'll eventually sound like a $20,000 audiophile system. I know, it's really not the best analogy, but I mean, my brain will just adapt to what I'm hearing now. I don't know. That's why I'm really looking forward to my first mapping with my audiologist next week. I've been doing a bunch of my own research, so, I'm sure I'll drive her nuts. For instance, I wondered exactly how far off is the apparent pitch of my cochlear implant. So here's what I did. I went to a free online tone generator and I routed the audio output of my computer via Bluetooth to only my processor, and I played 440 Hertz, or middle A, your typical tuning fork frequency. I memorized the note I heard since I have pretty good pitch memory. I took off my processor and changed the output of the computer to speaker so that I could hear it with my good ear. Then I adjusted the tone generator up until it matched the tone that I'd remembered hearing through my implant. You following that? Okay. I repeated this several times to make sure that I was getting an accurate result. And I found that my pitch offset happens to be a musically interesting 6 half steps higher than the actual pitch. In other words, my ear hears A, but my cochlear implant is telling my brain that it's a D sharp above A. That explains why, when I listen to music with both ears, it sounds weird, but, interesting. My cochlear implant is singing in harmony. Sort of. I then mapped frequencies to an online keyboard layout, which I'll play through for you now and describe what I'm hearing. Unlike you, I currently have the audio routed via Bluetooth only to my cochlear implant and not at all to my ears. See what we get here. Sounds like low piano notes. Changes there on F2. F2 and B, they sound messy. They sound kind of like jail cell doors, but a little bit of pitch differentiation. Okay, that's C3 right there through about that F sharp. C3 through F sharp are just like one note. Things really change there on the C. Still kind of noisy, metallic, but I'm hearing pitch differentiation. Big change there. Okay, I'm changing to another. Okay, A4, 440 on up are nice, pure, clean tones. They sound a little like Schroeder's piano from Charlie Brown, but these top notes are, I'm hearing half steps. Nice and clean. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm pleasantly surprised to hear so much clear pitch differentiation across the keyboard. I was generally hearing accurate half steps, except for in that one area in the lower pitches where I could barely discern a difference between the notes. At the lower frequencies, it was muddled. I was hearing a root frequency with a whole bunch of other noise and harmonics on top of it. But when I got to A4 or 440 hertz, everything changed. The tones were all pretty pure, with very distinct half-step intervals between the keys. I didn't really expect that, and as awful as music currently sounds through just my implant, pretty much indecipherable noise, really, it gives me a lot of hope for where this could all be leading. So here's my main question for my audiologist next week. Is it possible to remap such that the signals for 440 hertz and above be shifted toward the next set of electrodes out toward the tip of the array? That would push the stimulus for 440 hertz deeper down along the length of my cochlea. Remember, the deeper into the cochlea, the lower the natural pitch perception. So that would mean that 440 hertz would stimulate closer to the 440 hertz part of my auditory nerve instead of at the 622 hertz that it currently seems to be stimulating. Now, assuming I get a usable portion of my natural low-frequency hearing back in my implanted ear, which is still an unknown, it's too soon to know for sure, but if I do get that back, I can hear up to 400 hertz pretty well. So if I can get those low frequencies boosted by an acoustic ear hook, and I can get that pure tone half-step pitch perception pitched down 6 half steps, then I'm covered. I think I'd be a pretty happy camper. Add to that my Link M hearing aid in my other ear for seamless program changes, Bluetooth, phone calls, music, and my Roger mic. I might have hearing superpowers that I never dreamed of, which is really why I chose to go with advanced bionics in the first place. We'll see. I'm probably grossly oversimplifying the complexities of how the cochlea and auditory nerve work together to send pitch perceptions to the brain. But hey, it doesn't hurt to ask. I'll let you know what my audiologist has to say next week. If there's anything that you think I need to ask her about during my mapping, would you please let me know in the comments? I appreciate it. Until then, I wish you all well, and as always, thanks for listening.